Hello students. So today's topic is computer languages. As we know, what is a language? Language is a way of communication. I need to say something to you. I use a language. For example, we use Hindi language, we use English language. So every language has its own vocabulary, its own grammar, its own punctuations. So a language in which by which we can communicate with a computer is known as a computer language. So what is a computer language? A language is meant of communication, is a means of communication. What is a language? Language is a means of communication. We use a natural language such as English to communicate our ideas and emotions to others. Similarly, a programmer uses a computer language to instruct a computer what she wants to do. So we use natural English or Hindi or any other language to communicate our ideas to others. So in the same manner, a programmer or a computer engineer use a computer language to instruct a computer what she wants to or to communicate with a computer. So all natural languages use a standard set of words and symbols. These are the words and symbols we use to communicate. Everyone using that language understands these words and symbols. The set of words allowed in a language is called its vocabulary. So all the languages have its own vocabulary. Similarly, every computer language has a vocabulary of its own. Each word in the vocabulary has a definite unambiguous meaning. So every computer language has its own vocabulary, like the other languages, other natural languages which we use in day-to-day life. In case of a natural language, one can a use poor or incorrect vocabulary and grammar and still communicate his or thoughts. However, in case of programming languages, unless a programmer adhere exactly to the syntax rules of the language, even down to the punctuation mark, a computer will not understand his or her instruction. So in case of natural language, when we communicate with each other, we can use grammatically incorrect uh, words and sentences to communicate with each other. Still we can understand because we have common sense. We use our common sense to understand. For example, if I say what is your name and I don't use the question mark or in the end, then you can understand that what I am asking. But in this is not the case with computer languages. Computer languages need to be grammatically correct. Even punctuation marks need to be correctly placed because computers don't have common sense. So we can classify all the computer language broadly into following three categories. We have three categories of computer languages: machine languages, assembly languages, and high level languages. So what is a machine languages? Machine language, although we can design a computer to make it understand many different computer languages, every computer understands only one language without using a translator program. The language is called machine language and of the computer. Normally the machine language of a computer is written as string of binary 0 0. So we can use different languages in computer, but computer can understand only one language, that is ones and zeros. Actually a computer has some flip-flop, some registers, and every register is made up of some flip-flops. So what a flip-flops understand, it understands light on or light off. So when the light is on, it is 1, and when the light is off, it is 0. So computer can only understand ones and 0. So we use different languages, but the language which computer understand without converting it into any other language, that is machine language. That is form of ones and zeros. A machine language instruction normally has two parts, two-part format. Its instruction has two parts. The first part is operand code that tells the computer what function to perform, and the second part is uh, operand that tells where to find or store the data on which computer to perform the function. So it has two parts. A machine language has two parts. First is operation code, or we can say op code, and second is operand. Each computer code or opcode in the instruction set is meant to perform a specific basic operation or function. So some advantages and limitations of machine language. What are the advantages? A machine can execute program written in machine language at greater speed because the computer can understand machine instruction without the need for any translation. So a program written in a machine language can be performed very fast. Its speed is very high because we don't need to translate that program into any other language. Computer can understand the machine language, so a program written in the form of 0 and 1 runs very fast. However, writing a program in machine language has following disadvantages. It is machine dependent. Machine dependent means when you have written a code in one machine, it may not run in another machine. Difficult to it is very difficult to program because it is in the form of zeros and ones. So you get confused by programming or debugging the program. Error prone. The chances of error are more. Difficulty to maintain. Its maintenance is also very difficult. So these are the limitations and advantages and limitations of machine. Advantages is, and it has only one advantage, that is its speed is very high, but it has many limitations. Next is assembly language. The a language that allows use of letters and symbols instead of numbers for representing instructions in storage location is called assembly language or symbol language. So instead of zeros and ones, we use some letters and symbols so that we can understand it easily. A program written in assembly language is called assembly language program or symbolic. We can call this program as assembly language program, or we can also call it symbolic program. So assembly language programs help in overcoming these limitations of machine language program in the following way. So it helps in overcoming these limitations of the machine language program. So by using alphanumeric instead of numeric code for the instruction in the instruction set, we use some characters instead of zeros and one. By allowing use of alphanumeric name instead of numeric address for representation address of fixed storage locations. By providing additional instruction called pseudo instruction in the instruction set for instructing the system how we want it to assemble the program in computer memory. So some advantages of machine language: easier to understand and use. We can understand it easily because it is not in the form of 0 and 1. We use some characters and some symbols, so we can understand it easily and we can use it easily. Easier to locate and correct errors, so we can locate it easily, and we can also correct the error easily because same it has some numeric numerics, some alphabets, and some characters. Easier to modify. We can modify it easily. No worry about addresses. We don't have to worry about the addresses. Easily relocatable. So we can transfer the program from one machine to another. So efficiency of machine. It is very efficient. These are the advantages of machine language. It also has some disadvantages. Machine. It is also machine dependent. Knowledge of hardware required. We require knowledge of hardware for executing the machine languages. Machine level coding. So we also require coding at machine level. And the last is high level language. It is very user friendly language, that is high level language, because we use simple words in it. For example, a high level language is any programming language that enables development of a program in much more user friendly programming context and is generally independent of the computer hardware and architecture. So we use the grammar, the vocabulary used in high level language is very user friendly. We can understand it easily, and also it is independent of computer hardware architecture. So a high level language has a higher level of abstraction from the computer, so focus more on the programming logic rather than the underlying hardware components such as memory address and registry utilization. So we more in the high level language, we more focus on the logic we are using for creating a program instead of focusing on the hardware component or the memory address or the registry utilization. So high level languages are designed and to be used by the human operator or the programmer. So humans or programmer uh, can use the high level language. They are referred to as closer to human. So high level languages are closer to human beings. In other words, their programming style and context is easier to learn and implement than low level languages, and the entire code generally focus on specific program to be created. So it's the high level languages, the programming style and the context is easier to learn, and it is and than the low level languages, and the main focus of this program is to create the program rather than the hardware or the memory and registers. Every single program written in a high level language must be interpreted into machine level language before being executed by the computer. So as we know, computer can understand only machine level language. So a program written in high level language first needs to be converted to the machine level language before executing. So some examples of high level languages are basic C, C++, and Java are popular examples of high level. So these are some of the high level languages. So what are its advantages? It is machine independent, easy to learn to use, fewer errors, lower programming preparation cost, better documentation, easy to maintain. So it is machine independent means you can prepare a program in one computer and you can run it in many computers. Easier to learn and use. It is easier to learn and use because it is more closer to the human beings. Fewer errors, the chances of error are less. Low program preparation cost and better documentation. So the program preparation cost is less and documentation is better, easier to maintain. It is very easy to maintain. It has some limitations, lower efficiency. Its efficiency is low and less flexibility. So this is what I have today: computer languages, its types, advantages, disadvantages, etc. That's it. Thank you.